you've provided a perfect segue. You've talked in detail about enlargement, and that's what, amongst others, what the next panel here on the stage will be all about. And I'm delighted to be shared by four very strong and outstanding leaders from this region. For the leaders panel, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Prime Minister of Slovenia, Robert Golob, the Prime Minister of Croatia, Andrej Plenković, the Prime Minister of Albania, Edi Rama, and Prime Minister of Serbia, Milos Vučević. Always good to see you. Pleasure. I'm all the way on the left. You see the names. You see the names. Good to have you. Wonderful to have you all with us. Prime Minister Rama, whenever you and I are on the stage, things tend to go viral. I think this is why they put me close to you.
Because we have Turkish roots together, yeah.
Well, there you have it. But Prime Minister Golob, I want to give everyone here on the stage a quick opportunity to react to what the President of the European Commission just said. She says she's going to appoint a full-time commissioner in charge solely for EU enlargement. I want to give you a chance to respond to that directly.
Okay.
Now it is.
Okay, first, greetings to the audience, Mr. President, all the excellencies. I think that it is the right response to the times that we live in. Speaking about difficult times, sometimes we overlook those perhaps a little bit smaller, but more complex problems very close by. And I think that in the last couple of years, and I would like also to thank Andrej for working together at the European Council to really put forward the notion that the Western Balkans shall not be overlooked. On the other hand, that they need to be brought closer. I think a full-fledged commissioner really focusing on this particular area is the right approach, but not just that. It is so important what President of the Commission was also mentioning, and that is the growth plan, with its own funds, finances, which are at the disposal of how to award those undertaking the reforms. Something which Eddie was in the past, I guess, rather frustrated about because it was all in process, saying either you get everything once you get there, but you may not be getting there like for another 20 years. And now this approach has been changed. And I think these two changes, full focus on one hand, but on the other hand, having some concrete mechanism backed with money, I think that could do miracles for the future.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister, for your first initial reaction to what we just heard. Prime Minister Plenković, you are, of course, your country, Croatia, was the very last one to join the European Union in 2013. So you can say you've already done your homework. You have been in the club for many years, but still, what do you make of the President's remarks about a full-time EU commissioner on enlargement, devoted to EU enlargement?
I think it's logical. It's also lessons learned from her first 5 years, and I'm very happy that we all supported her in her new mandate for another 5 years. This is the time when the enlargement portfolio will require some deliverables, because the last real deliverable was when Croatia joined, and that was already more than 11 years ago. I think we managed over the past few years to somehow move the Western Balkans topic up to the agenda, because it was lost for a while somewhere between the chairs. However, we should know that the biggest promoter of enlargement in the last couple of years was Putin. Had he not invaded Ukraine, we would have never shifted Ukraine, Moldova and Georgia into the same basket as the Southeast European and Western Balkan countries. So therefore, this is one of the topics that will be high on the agenda, but requires a lot of work by all the member states who are in the pipeline, and will be ready to support them, of course, linked to the fulfillment of many, many criteria which are there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prime Minister Plenković. Prime Minister Rama, your country, of course, the US opened accession negotiations with your country, with Albania, in March 2020.
No, the US didn't yet. The EU.
The EU. Did I say US? You see, today I'm completely on the US mode. I don't know what it is. I think I watched too much Trump tweets this morning.
Because you work for them.
Yeah, well, not quite. I used to work for CNN and ABC News.
Once you work for them, you always work for them.
Is that what it is? No? Well, I have to check my... Well, the payment did not come last month, so I will check that. But in all seriousness...
Be careful, because if the payment don't come, something bad come.
Is that what it is? Well, I'm here in good company. There's a lot of security. I think I'm good for now, at least for
They
this time.
control security here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an independent country, but still, you know. Yeah.
Prime Minister, let's get back on track if we can for just a second and talk about EU enlargement. Obviously,
First of all, I told you here, I told you again a few days ago in Prague,
yes.
when you invite people from the Balkans, stop putting these chronometers in front because it's too German and I don't like it.
Yes.
So what you
The
want
Slovenians put it up, not the Germans.
But they are already too German, but you are Ali Aslan, and
Yeah.
true German is not good. So
That's what the AfD says. But anyway, it's,
anyhow, that's why Americans recruited you easily.
well, there you have it. I like how my reputation is now going to be fully destroyed thanks to you. If I may,
No, they'll fear you now, and they'll invite you more.
Prime Minister, second attempt to get back on track here. Let's... we're going to have a full-time... We're going to have a full-time...
Don't tease me.
We're going to have a full-time EU commissioner now in charge of EU enlargement, something that you've been vying for many, many years. That's good news.
I was very encouraged because finally I heard someone else, and in this case, someone speaking on behalf of a member state that said what I'm saying since day one of this openness towards the Balkans, that this is the diligent work of Vladimir Putin. So it was Vladimir Putin that had to aggress a country to help the European Union to understand that it's living in a parallel world, because this is the name of the forum, right? So now these parallel worlds are getting closer, and what Ursula already said is absolutely true, and it's also very encouraging, because it was a year ago here in Bled that she promised this new growth plan, and now the new growth plan is on track, and we are hopeful that more will happen, and that in the meantime that we have to do all the neurotic work to be considered ready to enter the European Union, to get more tools and to enter in different areas of the European Union, which before this new growth plan were completely not allowed for us. So it's a moment that I think being positive about Europe and the European Union is not working for the Americans. It's true.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. But in all earnestly, of course, Albania's ambition to join the EU obviously unwavering in this regard, and echoing what Prime Minister Plenković said, if it hadn't been for Russia's attack against Ukraine, probably this new momentum that we're seeing would not have been as evident as is currently being displayed. Prime Minister Vučević, welcome to the Bled Strategic Forum, a first-timer, I believe, here at the BSF. Last year, actually, I sat here on this very stage with your predecessor, with Ana Barnović, who said Serbia has no plan B regarding the EU. Is that still the case?
Yeah, indeed. It's something what is geostrategical definition and main political goal for Serbia in last 20 years. Something what we didn't change and we don't want to change. regarding the speeches that we heard from the President of European Commission and, of course, President of the Republic of Slovenia, Minister of Foreign European Affairs, is something that should encourage us from Western Balkans. Sincerely, I would like that we heard some data about Serbia and concrete results that has delivered in our European path, because we are very proud of that we had huge and serious and deep reform in affair of justification of justice and, of course, reform of electoral issues, media issues, many issues that are very important in overall our reform process. But Serbia remains on European path. If I may, to add something, and it's related with this title, Parallel Realities. The big question in front of us from Western Balkans is our expectations regarding enlargement, something parallel reality in terms of expectation from Brussels. I would like that it's not, that we have the same goal and it could be successfully delivered in next period. I cannot say is it 2030 or some another year, because in previous time, in previous periods, we were bombed with many dates and years, and unfortunately it didn't happen. But I believe that in upcoming periods, especially what Madam President of the European Commission said very clearly, that next commissioner will be fully dedicated to process of enlargement, will be something what brings good news for Western Balkans. And I'm not happy if we needed to see some war in European territory and to understand the importance of rounding off or encompass complete European territory, including Western Balkans. I think that Western Balkan states and people deserves this much before.
Yeah, the Western Balkans certainly a very vibrant region with vibrant countries, and their addition to the European Union, I think nobody in Brussels or beyond would doubt the valuable contribution that they would make. Prime Sogolov, of course, during the opening speeches, both from the President of the European Commission, but of course also your Deputy Prime Minister, Russia's war against Ukraine was very much at the forefront. It is a war that is now in the third year. Your country's support for Ukraine has been unwavering since the start. We heard it also before. In some European capitals, you sometimes get a sense there might be a war fatigue, some waning support perhaps amongst the public. Is that when you travel around Europe and speak to your counterparts, is that the sense that you're getting? Or would you say that Europe remains committed as fully committed since day one?
Well, honestly speaking, I wouldn't say I need to travel that far. You can go to Ljubljana and you can experience that. I think it's all around us. It has to do with increasing Russian propaganda as well, which is all over. We could see it in action during the EU elections, but even before. And it's an ongoing battle regarding what is the truth, which is also an ongoing battle when it comes to other issues regarding Russia, like the opposition and what the regime is doing to its own people, not just to Ukrainians. So I think it's just something that we need to take into account, never fall asleep, and keep diligently working upon, but also recognizing people that are doing much more difficult job while fighting the regime from the inside, exposing their lives. And I have to admit that, and my condolences again, and I was really sorry to hear that we were this close to get Mr. Navalny out of it, because the exchange that was undergoing was really including himself, but it could be also his death sentence that he was included. That really, so it's a perplexing word, and we are dealing with people that are very hard to predict and usually not having any good in their mind. So, expressing my deepest gratitude for those working from the inside, which does not apply, and I need to be honest, to Russia only. It applies also to Israel. And this is one of the controversial topics for today, but I think that wherever the opposition goes against a regime which is violating humanitarian and international law, we need to support it. And for that reason, I also congratulate all those voices within Israel claiming for peace and asking Netanyahu to stand back. I think this is the only way forward.
I will, of course, revert to you in just a moment and talk about that very issue about Gaza and your country's decision to recognize Palestine as an independent and sovereign state. Let's stay for a moment still on the Russia-Ukraine front. And I want to bring in Prime Minister Vučević here. It's no secret, of course, that your country, that Belgrade maintains traditionally and historically has maintained close relationships with Moscow. That has not changed since the February 24th, 2022. Sometimes there's a segment that Serbia is involved in a bit of a balancing act. On one hand, as you pointed out here today as well, like your predecessor last year, there's no plan B to Serbia's plans vis-à-vis Europe, but at the same time, it is not willing to shed its close ties to both Russia and China for that matter. But let's stay with China here for a second. Do you find it problematic, this balancing act between trying to become an EU member at the same time maintaining close relationship with Russia?
You know, Serbia doesn't hide anything. You know, we are a sovereign, independent country with main international goal to become full member state of EU. Till that, we have full right to protect our national and state interest in a way that we consider is the best. So we don't do anything behind the scene. You know, we have a little bit different opinion about sanctions and generally how it helps to see the end of war, because we as a Serbia were imposed with sanctions during the 90s. We suffered a lot, and we don't believe in that politics. I don't want to sound as someone who is a total and pessimist, but I don't see the full results of sanctions. But okay, we will see. I believe that all of us have to strive to see the peaceful solution and finally end of war in Ukraine. But nevertheless, I want to very strong emphasize the fact that Serbia fully recognizes territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. And we have voted for all resolutions in United Nations regarding that topic. Ukraine is our very close friend. They are also Slavic brothers as the Russians for us, so we don't have any problem to say that very clearly. Ukraine doesn't recognize so-called independence of Kosovo, so we have fully respect to Ukraine as we have to Russia. Regarding China, you know, President Xi visited Belgrade in 8th of May, but the day before he visited Paris. He met with President Macron and Madame Ursula von der Leyen. Then he went from Belgrade to Budapest and met with Prime Minister of Hungary. You know, we want to see what we can get the best for our economy and for our people, but I will underline once again, emphasize our main international goal is to become full member state of European Union. That's something what we don't change, and we don't say that because it's good to say that, you know, it's just matter of formality. And let's repeat and repeat. It's for us good. No, we really believe that there is no complete process or project of Europe without Western Balkans. I don't understand why we call that Western Balkans. I think that Andrea is a little bit older than me. It was just Balkan, but rather I will use term of title of European Balkans. But okay, Western Balkans. Without Western Balkans, European Union cannot round off all main issues, economical, security, culture, all. It's empty hole, which without this territory you cannot speak about completed Europe.
Yeah.
And we don't have any problem to see that some former Soviet republics, we are speaking about Ukraine or Moldova or Georgia even, have their own accession process. It's okay for them, but it's not fair. It's not fair for Western Balkan states that we are somewhere in corner, because, as you said, all of you said, we have new geopolitical momentum, war in Ukraine. But okay, we understand that, but you have also to count our efforts from Western Balkans, that we are also part of Europe.
And I think
I think that it should be also
part of Europe. Is nobody here in this room or beyond
No.
would deny that.
I just want to
Sure.
close our positions when we are speaking about.
Absolutely. Well taken, well received, Prime Minister. Indeed, you've laid out the necessity or your priorities in this East-West Balancing Act, and as you pointed out, the recent visit by French President Macron certainly a boost from the Serbian perspective.
And Chancellor Scholz. And nobody mentioned that Serbia signed one of the most important agreements with the EU in terms of critical materials. And it's not easy decision for us. Not for political establishment, but environment, social environment. And we decided to let's say, to deliver and to develop this project with EU, not with other foreign partners.
Prime Minister,
don't forget.
Again, just to round up the Russia-Ukraine, if you will, angle here. Your country, like Slovenia, like so many other countries on this continent, has been...
You mean we like Slovenia, or we are like Slovenia?
Like Slovenia and other countries. I'm sure you like it, otherwise you wouldn't be here each year. Yes, of course. Clearly you appreciate Slovenia and the BSF. But more importantly, like Slovenia and other European countries, you too have been unambiguous in your support for Ukraine. You signed close treaties and partnerships with Zelensky, President Zelensky himself. You, of course, your country has a certain history with communism, Soviet Union. I think does your support for Ukraine stem from your history as well here?
No, from our history, we learned that in Russia the music never changed. And it's also on the Russian story of the anthem, which we had the chance to talk, because when Stalin needed the text for the anthem, he needed something very strong and brutal. And then when Khrushchev came and he thought that certain things had to change and Stalin had to be somehow put aside, he asked the same writer of the anthem to write a different text. And then when Yeltsin came, was not anymore Soviet Union, and the same writer who was very old came to write a different text. And then Putin wanted a very different text, but the music always the same. So and we learned in the hard way, because we were not like all these guys. We were completely isolated from both the West and the East. We were like North Korea of Europe, and being unambiguous, it's how we are. We were unambiguous about Ottoman Empire even after the Turks themselves decided that it was not anymore a good idea. We were unambiguous about Stalin even after the Russians decided it was not anymore a good idea. So we'll be unambiguous about the EU and US partnership even when Americans and Europeans may decide it's not anymore a good idea. So we are fully behind Ukraine, also for a very simple reason, that it looks like completely unreal and surreal that in our time a country in Europe can decide to change the borders brutally, by force, by taking what pretends to be its own part. And this is completely not possible for us. But we are very much aware that we are very small to change the destiny of any battle. And we tried hard for 50 years to be the center of the world. It was not a good idea. So we are now very proudly aligned with our friends and our partners, fully behind the United States, like you, and the European Union. So for us, it's all very clear. There is no shadow in the middle. It's very black and white. Yeah. I just want to add one thing, which I don't really understand about the democratic countries and about the big democracies, not about us, is this thing that we repeat and repeat and repeat, that Russian interference, Russian interference, Russian interference, Russian here, Russian there. And I also heard the president of Bled Forum to say, I believe in humanity. But when you see how the Russians are getting everywhere, through the tools that we are letting there for free, destroying every day our children, destroying every day the sense of community, the sense of communication, the sense of democracy itself, and I'm talking about the social media, I don't understand anymore what needs to happen to realize that social media, in this way, like we are treating and like we are dealing with that, is the biggest asset Russians, Iranians, whomever else you want have. And I would stop by saying, look at the TikTok version in China. It's a beautiful reality there. It's a country you'd like to leave immediately. Look at the TikTok Chinese version for us. It's the ultimate hell. And we call it freedom. We call it I don't know what. But as long as we will not realize that freedom of speech cannot be equal to freedom of speech, we are sabotaging, and I use a word that Russians like, sabotaging our own future in the name of something that it escapes me. And I don't think our parents were stupid, and generations of parents were stupid to ask us to behave with education, to think twice before we speak, to not show in public all the depth of our guts and so on and so further. And I don't think that the press was less free when there was fact-checking, when there was no way to get out and to offend and to abuse and to do all the most horrible thing to another human because you have a different opinion from him or her. So in this, I think that we are missing the point that the Russians and all the other forces that do not like our way of life are being given a free ride through our fantastic space of freedom of speech.
Well, we'll certainly be hearing more about the subject matter later on in a one-on-one conversation with Garry Kasparov here on stage, which I'm very much looking forward to. I think a point that we will take into the discussion with him. But Prime Minister Plenković, please jump in. I know you wanted to also remark, Croatia has been standing by Ukraine as well from the get-go. Do you see any changes within the Croatian public as far as the steadfast support is concerned?
Well, first of all, I think that we should all give credit to the introductory remarks by President and Deputy Prime Minister and also Prime Minister of Slovenia for a little bit explaining the global context, how difficult the 2024 is, the year of the global elections and the year where we need to set course for the rest of this decade, whether it's the enlargement process, whether it's the security stability of the continent, Russia's aggression against Ukraine, or the situation in the Middle East, which can escalate. This is also something that we need to know. 3 points. One on the fatigue regarding issue of Ukraine. I think it's a false and imposed narrative which can only work in favor of Russia. There's no doubt about it. When you look at the facts and decisions, you look at the rollovers of the packages of sanctions, which are not there because we had nothing else to do. They're there because Russia violated international law and aggressed another country, which is Ukraine. I have to mark that Serbia was not also under Milosevic, under sanctions regime, because the United Nations and others had nothing else to do. It was due to the behavior, the aggressive behavior, and this is the point. This is one of the instruments which is a response. Second point is the support for Ukraine, militarily, politically, in economic terms, in reconstruction terms, is strong. We had strong debates about 7-8 months ago. We had one member state who stalled us and slowed us down in passing a 60 billion euros package for Ukraine, but eventually it was done. And this is important to note. So my feeling is this, despite the fatigue narrative, the support is very strong. The critical element is the mood and the willingness to defend its country within Ukraine. This is the key point. And I think that the efforts for peace, whether they come from the process that is now, let's say, linked to Switzerland, or whether there are some other initiatives, is also important, but we don't need just any peace. We need a just peace with respect of the territorial integrity of Ukraine. Otherwise, the message which is sent, okay, after 2 or 3 years there is fatigue, we'll acknowledge the status quo, and hop, there goes the territory and all of those victims. So we can't agree to disregard for the fundamentals of the work of the world in 2024. If we do that, then the door is open to any autocracy to basically bite away any democracy where they can and use the power of the strongest. Otherwise, the whole system will collapse.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Prime Minister. Prime Minister Rama, you won't like it, but we have less than 10 minutes to go. So there's still some issues I want to touch upon. And Prime Minister Golob, of course, both you and your foreign minister on this very stage had already touched upon the issue and topic of Gaza. Your country famously has followed Spain, Ireland, and Norway by recognizing an independent and sovereign Palestinian state. You tweeted on the day, you said Slovenia's recognition of Palestine as a sovereign and independent state sends hope to the Palestinian people in the West Bank and in Gaza. What compelled you? What compelled you to take this important step, Prime Minister?
Well, there are many reasons, but let me revert back to Ukraine and see how everything's connected. At the beginning of the aggression, Slovenia helped with all kinds of equipment that we had. Now we don't have any equipment left because we sent it all. But then when I met with President Zelensky, what was it, perhaps 2 months ago, and I asked him, how can we help? And he told me, well, we are losing the narrative in Global South about the double standards. And Ukraine needs support in Global South by countries like Slovenia, who has a very good reputation among the Global South countries. You know why? Because of our position regarding Palestine. So we are not doing it for this reason, but this is to show how double standards is really one of the issues with, unfortunately, most of member states of Europe do not put enough emphasis on. We do. And we were proud to stand in the company of Norway, Ireland, and Spain, sending the message to the whole world, not just to the Palestinian people, that we understand what is our moral obligation. It's not just lawful obligation because of international law, it's a moral one. It was a small sliver of hope, but every hope that we can send to Palestine is better than doing nothing.
But predictably, we're going to have sessions here on the Middle East later on as well, which I'm looking forward to. But predictably, of course, the reaction from Israel wasn't positive. Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz tweeted, the Slovenian government's decision to recognize a Palestinian state rewards Hamas and its attack on October 7. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the fact is that it all started, in a way, on October 7th. But the response was totally disproportional. At the beginning, what we witnessed was catastrophe. Then we witnessed horrors on the Palestinian side. Now what we witness, we don't really believe what Netanyahu is doing is really wanting to liberate the hostages. The latest developments show that it's all about him staying in power and has nothing to do with the hostage release. And that's really something that he will have to really, a certain day, he will have to explain to his own people. That's going to be really a bad day for him.
Just listening to you, it's very clear that you feel very passionate about this subject matter. Again, more discussion on that topic to follow. Keeping the time in mind, I want to do one quick final round where everybody comes in. As has been already pointed out by Foreign Minister Fayon, we have the Young Bled Strategic Fellows each year. Very great group. Where are they? Can we see a show of hands? Right there in the back. And they are listening to us. They're listening to you. They're listening to the speeches. They listen to us talk about Ukraine, about Gaza, all the things that Secretary General Peter Gürk has said, what is ailing our soul and our planet. I want to start all the way at the right with Prime Minister Vučević, and then we're coming down here. What is your message? What is your message to the young people who are hoping that you, that prime ministers, that the leaders are working for a better future, not just for yourself, but not for the current generation, but for the next one? What message of hope and optimism do you have for them?
You know what, I would like...
Can you speak into the mic?
Yes, sorry. You know what, I would like that we have more speak about our mutual future, not to speak about some faraway countries and mostly to be stuck in past. Now I should, I don't know, give answer to Mr. Plenković, what he said about the 90s. He said that we are losing time because we will never be on the same position regarding what we survived during the 90s. And I will just repeat that I don't believe in politics of sanctions because mostly sanctions hit common people, not regimes. And I can witness about this because Serbia has been or was exposed in sanctions during the 90s. And if we always repeat what happened in the past and who is more guilty, who is not, we will not reach the main goal, what we nominated as a main topic for this conversation. I will be able to say, or free to say, the main topic also through speech of Madam von der Leyen, how we should encompass European territory, so to gather all European countries. Obviously we need the energy of new generation, the youngsters and people who are maybe not so under pressure from the past, and maybe they're more relaxed to speak about future. It could bring some positive vibes. And I will just say once again, without Western Balkans, you cannot speak about European project as completed. Just look on chapter from Paris, 1990s. Just look on chapter or declaration from Porto Caras in Greece, 2003. You will say, that's the main European goal of European Union. And I understand that it's main goal of Western Balkans country as well. So young generations are necessary. We have to understand necessity of their more engagement because they are relaxed from the past, and I think they're bringing something positive.
Yeah, thank you so much. Prime Minister Plenković, also your message to the young leaders who are looking for a message of hope, especially at a time, the Prime Minister Vučević spoke about also Europe's obligation and Europe's role here in a time when some call it BRICS, some call it Global South, is certainly challenging the political and economic power of wealthier nations of North America and Western Europe. What can we as Europeans do to work on a better and brighter future here?
Well, I think we should show leadership in the current context of the global challenges, which are multiple. First of all, regarding the climate change issue, which is the biggest challenge for all of us. In some, I would say, parts of the world, we are more aware, in others less. Those who are catching up in terms of the industrial development are a bit reckless about the consequences, but I think that Europe and the European polities are more than aware, and I think this issue is the number one issue. We see the global warming, we look at our summers, we look at drought, we look at fires, we look at all the natural catastrophes, and we will perhaps remember this extremely warm summer as one of the coldest summers after a couple of years. So that is one thing. Second is, I think Europe should be the biggest proponent of international law. It should be our biggest strength. We are, of course, working in strengthening our economies, in strengthening our energy security, strengthening our defense, strengthening our interior affairs cooperation. But if the international law fails, we are all unsecure. And this is basically the main issue of the global governance, and that's why this summit of the future that we shall be attending in New York is extremely important. And also in that respect comes the enlargement. I think that there is a clear commitment. Last year here we were talking about the 2030, you remember the debate. I don't think anybody will promise a date to the countries of the region, because everybody who promised something made a mistake. The ones that promised and the ones that hoped. So without the great pretending, I think it's better to work hard based on the individual merits and use the conducive environment which we have now, and then simply come to a result. And the young generation can really help. We should not perhaps be focused on the past, but we should not forget the past. And Serbia and sanctions is an example of the regime change, actually. It was something that happened and we all know it. Actually, Koštunica was a superstar of the first Western Balkan summit that was in Zagreb in November 24. I don't think he came there solely because of the wish of the people, but of a wider international community's effort. So strong support to Ukraine. Two-state solution is our position in terms of Israel and Palestine. And that is something that should come as an agreement of the wider peace settlement in the region. Otherwise, if we have a permanent conflict, we are all on the losing side.
For sure. And Europe's role, which you have emphasized and pointed out rightfully, so overcoming historical differences, I think, is a very important point. The fact that France and Germany, for instance, post-45, got together in order to initiate this union might serve as an example for other countries here in this region. And as such is the global landscape that, as you pointed out, climate change, a huge issue we couldn't even get to because of the many conflicts that are ailing us. Prime Minister Rama, your final message of hope to the younger generation.
Your time says 0000, and now you want me to give a message to the young generation.
2 minutes, yes.
No, I have to say very frankly that when I was younger, or at least at the age of the people that raised their hands, I hated older people that would tell me, this is my message. I would... And while you gave me time to think about the answer, I was just thinking that all the best decisions in my life were made when I didn't follow the advice of them who were older than me. So I would not be here, by the way, if I would listen to the messages of the older. But this being said, I want to say one thing, that the only difference I see that is regrettable between the time I was in their age and today is that today the young people have much less belief in politics. And they make a big mistake, because when you think politics is not something you have to deal with because it's dirty, because it's bad, because it's represented by people like them that have messages,
I'm looking forward to
you lose the point. You lose the point because you cannot escape from politics. Politics is after you all the time. So there are two ways. Or you stay somewhere there in the darkness and you raise the hand, said, please give the message, and then you applaud when you hear the message, which practically I don't know what it meant. But, and then you suffer the decisions of politics, or you just get on the stage and you engage with politics. So one of the biggest harms, again, I go back to my thing about the social media and about all these things, is to discredit politics every day, to say that everything that politicians do is horrible, that all politicians are the same, they are thieves, they are hypocrites, they are lazy, and all these things, and to create the idea that there is a better life outside the space of politics. If the space of politics will not become better, life outside of space will become much, much more difficult. And to give the illustration and to end, because when you nod like that, you just are thinking with yourself things that you don't want to say, and better you don't say. Look what politics, when it's not really up to the task, does to Ukraine. We will win. Ukraine should win. Victory is the only option. Very good. And then we'll give you this type of weapon, but you have to use only in this direction and only for that number of meters. We'll give you this type of bullets, but you have to spend them only for this purpose. And we'll give you this type of missile, and you have to throw it, but not farther. So it's like entering in a football pitch and having to have a game with a very strong team, and you give to your team one shoes, and then the other hand is barefoot, and then you say, don't use this hand. So, or we go with them full-fledged, and really we give them everything they need, and we give them now, instead of giving every time something more after some bigger damage has been done to them, or then we find a way to bring them together. But doing this kind of two things in the same time is practically creating as much harm as giving chances. So this schizophrenia between the values, the principles, and then the political behavior based on many, many other reasons has to end if really we want Ukraine to prevail. Otherwise, one day, books will be written, and the truth will be much bitterer than when we are in the echo chamber and we all claim victory.
Thank you so much for your final powerful words. We started this session with your remarks, Prime Minister Golov. We're going to end it. I know it's hard to top this answer now, but I want to still give you a chance for some final remarks.
You invite him, he gives you a chance, you know.
You all need to understand that the clock is showing 00, so I can talk as long as I wish.
Absolutely. And it's your show. So.
No, but I often hear that I'm too optimistic a person, making too many promises, which is true from time to time. But nevertheless, I would like to finish it on a positivistic tone and say to the younger generation that you always dream big. Small dreams are no dreams at all. But please, never, never ever think that big dreams can come true fast. Then they're not big. There is no way you can achieve anything significant in any regard if you think you can achieve it without real effort and without plenty of time and effort invested. This is one lesson that most of the politicians forget about the first day we get elected, and we promise too fast schedules, and you don't have that luxury, not the younger generation. It's going to be an uphill and a very long-term battle, especially when it comes to climate. But still, dream big, persist, and keep insisting, asking us that we do the same. And perhaps we can come to a conclusion that is going to be really good for all of us.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes this year's Leaders Panel, a world of parallel realities. Again, a lot of food for thought that our leaders have given us with something that I'm sure subsequent sessions will take with them. Prime Minister of Serbia, Milos Vučević, Prime Minister of Croatia, of course, always, Andrej Plenković, of course, thank you so much for your hospitality, as always, the Prime Minister of Slovenia, Robert Golob, and my good friend, Prime Minister of Albania, Edi Rama. Next year, you will do a one-on-one with you here. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated.